All right, here we are with the next video summarizing or talking about the article in the course pack entitled Your Content Marketing Strategy Doesn't Have to Be Complicated. All right, so some of the takeaways from this particular article. One, simply producing more content is an ineffective strategy. Producing good content that's compelling and interesting to your audience is what's important. And your content strategy does not need to be complex. Essentially, what it has to do is respond to 6 elements: why, who, what, and then when, where, and how. Uh, and if you can answer those questions effectively, you can reach your audience effectively. So, why? First question we need to address. Content marketing can accomplish one of 6 business objectives listed out here in yellow: branding, community building, public relations, market research, customer service, or lead or sales generation. And your job at this stage of the content development process is to pick one. Which of these 6 business objectives is the piece of content you're trying to create going to accomplish? And as a producer of content, just pick one. Okay, you do not need to try to accomplish multiple objectives with a single piece of content. Pick one objective and use that as the anchor for the rest of your content development process. Okay. Which leads us into the next stage, which is who. So good content has to solve a problem for your audience. Um, it has to serve a need or fill a need in their life. And so you need to know who is your audience and what's important to them. As the comic shows below here, we got a bunch of things as a brand that we want to say. And there's a whole bunch of things that customers might be interested in, but the overlap between those two isn't that big. All right, and that's where the relevance is where we're going to be focusing on what is that overlap? What is the relevance? How am I going to get their attention so that I can actually hang on to it and communicate my message? And then a corollary to this to what? Okay, so what is our content going to contain? All right, and good content is something or is material that's relevant both to your brand and serve something for your customers. We don't care what other brands are doing. All right, so what they're doing is completely irrelevant to us as a brand. Focus only on what is best for your brand and your customers, your audience, and be strategic. Okay, don't try to do everything. This is where the less is more model comes into play here. Focus on quality and not quantity, and focus on delivering good content, not more content. The other 3 questions are elements help us further flesh out the story. They also kind of give us the marching orders to actually execute. Okay, so when, where, and how. Focus on when do I launch this content, where do I put it, and how do I create and measure its effectiveness. And knowing at all times that I do not need to use all the channels that are available to me. The only channels that matter are the ones that my customers use. So be where your customers are, create content that's relevant to them and relevant to your brand, and deliver it in spots or in locations where your customers are gonna find it. This leads us into the idea of what is it we're trying to do. Okay, and what we're doing is telling stories. Okay, so let's take a look over the next few slides at a guide for effective storytelling. The pyramid on the right is essentially, you can look at it as either a 3 or a 5 stage process for telling a story. The 3 stages are at the corners of the triangle. Exposition, climax, and resolution are equivalent to beginning, middle, and end. All right. Between those 3 stages of the story come rising action and falling action. But when we break it down to its most basic components, and when we look at storytelling, there's a quote here: storytelling may seem like an old-fashioned tool. It is, okay, and that's what makes it so powerful. We look at the quotes here from Ursula Le Guin, a famous science fiction writer. There were great societies that did not use the wheel, but there have been no societies that did not tell stories. Okay, stories are a significant component of culture and of history, and those who tell the stories rule society. Plato. When we're talking about this in brands and in the world of brand content, um, part of what we want to create as a brand is signature stories. Okay, and some of this goes back to what we were talking about in the previous article on content, where we talked about high concept schemas, or what is the underlying uh, message or idea supporting the story that you're trying to communicate. And the 2 brands that I have on the slide here are Nordstrom, a brand that is incredibly or known for their incredible customer service, and LL Bean. And the story that we're going to tell about LL Bean is related to how the company got started. So brand signature stories, major asset that can be used over time. One of the key things that signature story helps to provide is the concept of uh, a style guide, or a method that says this is what the stories that involve our brand look like. So in the last uh, video, we talked about the idea of design guides or style guides for brands. A signature story or set of signature stories contribute to that style guide. They're examples of that style, and they give us something to point to or look at as being an exemplar of how we're going to approach storytelling. And Kipling again here, we looked at Kipling's 6 elements of storytelling before, has the quote here that if history were taught in stories, it would never be forgotten. Okay? Moving on to the Nordstrom story. Okay, so Nordstrom has one rule for their customer service folks. Um, they believe it wholeheartedly. This is an advertisement that's produced for the brand. Use good judgment in all situations. That piece of paper, that index card, that statement, uh, is their employee handbook. That's it. Okay, and so when we talk about creating a simple message for their employees, this couldn't be any simpler. Okay, there's no rules to follow. There's no ifs or either ors or anything along those lines. They merely want you to use good judgment. Okay, and there's a signature story related to this concept of exemplary customer service that has an old woman returning a set of tires to a Nordstrom store. And the customer service individual that engages with this customer doesn't turn her away, doesn't tell her Nordstrom doesn't sell tires. What she does is go through a quick process, try to figure out how much a set of tires might cost, and gives that woman cash in return for the set of tires. Now, Nordstrom obviously doesn't sell tires. Okay, so what are they going to do with these tires, and why would she take them back? Okay, well, one, what do they do with it? There's a couple things they could do. One, they could send them back to the manufacturer and get credited back the money, and therefore they lose nothing in the transaction. Or two, which is what they've done, you take these tires and put them on display at your corporate headquarters, which happens to be in Seattle for Nordstrom, as a constant reminder of the importance of customer service. Okay, and that our customers and our employees are at the top of our value list, and we will do anything for either one of them. This is a signature story, and this is how we look at Nordstrom as an exemplary example of. And we look at LL Bean and their one of their key signature stories. And it is this one that finds its way into a modern advertisement and a modern story that the brand tells about their manufacturing process. Okay, and the original story for this is how the brand was founded in the first place. Okay, so LL Bean, for whom the company and the brand are named, founded the LL Bean brand in response to having a pair of boots that he had worn on an expedition. And this leads us to what's going on next, right? So same as the last video, continue posting your blogs. Check out the platform, analyses that your classmates put together. Announcement will be up on Blackboard explaining how to access those. Read the case and then complete the case analysis following the 2 questions that are shown on page 7 of the syllabus. I'll post a specific assignment document that explains the case analysis a little bit more thoroughly. All right, talk to you guys again soon.